If you're focused on your ego, if you're focused on you, then you're not getting the best out of the experience in terms of learning potential.
Have you ever met that one English speaker that presents themselves with such an attitude of absolute certainty? These learners seem to know exactly what to say with the most eloquent words at any time. They never translate in their heads and they have no problems thinking in English. They have an intense conviction in their English abilities that seem to demolish every single language obstacle in their way. It's almost like if there were some sort of language competition, they would always win. Maybe you've thought, gosh, that's a confident person. I want to be just like that. Maybe you've even fantasized about the day when that would be you. Well, in today's lesson, I talk with psychology and English coach Charlie from Real English with Real Teachers and the British English podcast about how letting go of ego is what learners who are actually able to advance do. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on your show, Ethan.
All right, and before we jump into Charlie's incredible insights, if when you learn a language, you want to be able to understand it even when it is spoken fast, you want to be understood by anyone and actually use that language to communicate naturally with others, well, this is exactly what we'll help you to do here on Real Life English. So don't wait to join our global community. Subscribe and hit that bell down below so that you don't miss any of our new lessons. So Charlie, how is it that having an inflated ego may blind someone from reality and from seeing their areas for improvement?
Yesterday I had a class and one of the students was trying to use a phrase that I had defined slightly differently to how she had perceived it. And every time I kind of corrected her, she wasn't willing to take it on board. And it reminded me of with learning Spanish, if I take a phrase and I try to use it myself, and I've invested time in it, I've attached ego to it. I've attached self-importance, and because I think I know it. And when a teacher rejects it, it's again about whether you're attached to that or not. And some people are really attached to that and they can't let go. I sometimes can't let go, and it really slows the whole learning process down. Everyone is revolving around kind of pleasure seeking and affirming their ego, and that book really woke me up to the idea of every action I do is almost ego driven, and I can kind of detach from that and choose to be a bit more neutral.
Well, truly confident people know that improvement comes slowly over time, and that pretending to be something that they are not only delays their improvement. Gaining confidence is such an important part of speaking a foreign language. However, Charlie makes a great point of how overconfidence sometimes is a double-edged sword that can really prevent you from improving your English or making progress in any substantial way, because your ego is so inflated by a false sense of confidence.
They don't really care what people think about them. That definitely makes it easier when you learn a language because, I'm more the same as you, but I think people I've met that are like that, they're just able to throw themselves into the situation and make mistakes and have fun with it and play around and laugh at themselves. And I feel like for me, that's definitely been a growth process. That's something I've had to discover in my own language learning and everything is, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay if people laugh, like figure out why they're laughing and laugh at it too. And all these different things that, in a sense, it's just not taking yourself so seriously, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I was just thinking also the flip side of that is, talking so much and not really realizing your mistakes. And people sometimes go that extra distance of not even appreciating their mistakes and therefore never really progress with it. So I feel like, there's definitely a balance between being self-aware, like we might be a bit shy, but we also probably learn from our mistakes, but we're slow at progressing. But then the other side would be, blurting every mistake out, but not being mindful of what your mistakes are in the moment. Yeah, I've had some students like that.
Yeah. It's great if you have that because it's in a sense, it's a confidence just to go out there and make all the mistakes and stuff, but you also need to have that more sober part. If that is you need to have that more sober part that can come and have maybe the deliberate practice to figure out, okay, what are these mistakes, and actually be solving them, so it's not just something that gets fossilized or sticks with you for your entire language learning journey.
You can listen to the full interview with tons of other English teachers and experts for free anywhere you enjoy listening to podcasts. However, I would recommend that you listen on the RealLife English app. Why? Because it is the only place where you can get a transcript for the full episode and learn all of the most important vocabulary and more. Plus, many learners like you tell me that they are frustrated that they don't have anyone to practice what they are learning with. Well, on the RealLife app, you can have conversations in English with people from all around the world at the touch of a button and discover new cultures. So if you are ready to step outside the classroom and live your English, then download the app now by searching for RealLife English in the Apple app or Google Play Store. Or simply click the link up here or down in the description below. If, like many, you hold yourself back because of the fear of making mistakes, know that we teachers love them. I'll let Charlie explain why.
Yeah, I'm really trying to push them to see mistakes as like a fast track way, as you just said, to understand the phrase. Because when I'm teaching the phrase, I have no idea how a non-native is going to interpret a phrase and think, oh, I can use it in this way. And they'll very often map it onto a phrase that they've kind of thought is similar in their language, perhaps. And obviously, I'm not gonna have that understanding until it comes up.
Right.
So that mistake really helps me as a teacher see how a learner is perceiving it and how they think that they could use it. When you get a new piece of information, we tend to categorize into something that we understand, like we label it, we give it a box, and we like to put things in boxes, don't we? Whereas in a new language, the culture has affected the language a lot, and very often we can't quite associate the grammar, the syntax, whatever it is in the language, doesn't compute with our brains, and we've got to stay out of our native brain, essentially. So to not be putting language into different boxes that we already think that we know is a really nice way of kind of trying to stay outside of the native brain, I'd say. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting if you learn multiple languages too, you kind of see that each language, it gives you a little bit different way of thinking and putting things together and whatnot. So it really is it's like putting puzzle pieces together in some sense with each language that you learn. And then like when you actually speak that language, I think it affects your personality, obviously, but it also just affects maybe how you view things a little bit compared to when you speak your native language or when you speak another language.
Being authentic and true to yourself removes the distraction of thinking you need to be like someone else, and it allows you to see more clearly the direction in which you actually want to achieve. How about you? Do you ever suffer from being too confident? How have you dealt with that? Comment it down below and discuss it with other real-lifers. A big mistake that learners often make in an attempt to sound more confident or fluent is using fancy words when they speak. You do not want to do this, please. Let's watch a snippet of Andrew's lesson on choosing the most appropriate words for each situation.
Being fluent in English has a lot to do with the vocabulary you know, but part of fluency, even proficiency and competency in the language, is also being able to make good word choices. Just as you wouldn't wear a suit to the beach, you might not want to use academic vocabulary when you're talking to a friend.